Still Poddable. Playoff edition.
Other teams might as well buy their tickets and get through now because the Celtics are on the path to ban on 19.
Playoff edition.
With us on this journey are JT, Sam, Packard, Brian, Robb, and Sean.
Playoff edition.
So I'm gonna need you all to buckle in because this pod's gonna be a wild ride.
Still Poddable. Still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable. Still Poddable.
I've never seen anybody lose their season 2 years in a row.
A psychosexual celebration of the Boston Celtics.
That last part gets me every time.
It makes me laugh every single time. It's absolutely absurd, but this is still Poddable, and I guess it is a psychosexual celebration of the Boston Celtics. I am Sam J. and Packard, joined by my two co-hosts from The Athletic, Jay King, and from MassLive.com, Brian B. Robb. We are still Poddable, a Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast. Some would say the best Celtics podcast. Al Gore's internet would say the best Celtics podcast. And we are here for you every single day on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Today is the free episode. That means we are on the CLNS YouTube page. It also means we are brought to you by the Game Time app. So if you're watching us on the free feed, definitely tune in for the playoff run. Join the chat that's popping during these games. It's a lot of fun. Patreon.com/stillpoddable. And folks, the Celtics got a second round opponent because the Detroit Pistons blew another basketball game down the stretch. B-Rob, I just want to get your impression. Before we even talk about Celtics Knicks, I just want to get your impression on Knicks Pistons. What a wild series that the Pistons should have won. The Pistons won 5 of those 6 games.
Yeah, that is one that's gonna hurt for a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Idiots.
Do you think Joe Mazzulla was like punching a wall, guys, when they didn't go 2 for 1 with 35 seconds left in Game 6? The Pistons.
He will probably show it to his team as an example of what can go wrong when you screw up the minor details. Man, that whole series was just on drugs. It really was. It really was like Grizzlies Timberwolves all over again, with both teams trying to lose games. Every game, it seemed, came down to the wire. Like, just guys playing with their hearts instead of their brains. It was, but that Jalen Brunson 3.
I don't understand what happened to Ausar Thompson. Like, I've watched it so many times. I don't know why he fell so far away from him after playing like phenomenal defense like 2 possessions before that.
My brother had just texted the group chat that the Thompson brothers might be better than any defenders he's ever seen. And then Oscar got just broken off, like absolutely broken off for a wide open 3. That move was insane. The move on Dennis Schroeder like a minute earlier was even more insane.
The spin move off balance below the basket.
You know how there's like one-on-one games where like you get 3 dribbles? If you played a one-on-one game against Jalen Brunson and he had unlimited dribbles, I don't think there's anybody who would stop him. Because he just used shoulder fakes. He has every freaking crafty move. They let him. I mean, Dennis Schroeder was right there with him for a while, but you can't just be with him for a while because he's eventually going to just move you an inch and find a way to get to the basket. And he did that. I feel like both teams blew this game. Both teams won this game, and the Knicks wound up on top, and they will beat the Celtics.
They will, and that is the exact matchup I wanted because I've only met 2 Knicks fans in my life that I've enjoyed spending time with. I'm welcoming the sports hatred that comes with a good New York Boston series.
Who are those Knicks fans?
YC, who's young Costanza, used to be a producer on Underdog. Now he produces Pablo Torre Finds Out, and my main man Barry Clark, who I knew in college.
Young Costanza, like George.
Precisely. I'm surprised you got a reference to pop culture.
I watched a couple of Seinfeld episodes. It was a
Was it
very
for you?
overrated show.
Yeah, I thought you would say that.
I tried to watch it a bunch of times. It's fine.
It's a show about nothing, and I know you're a real plot-driven guy, so I can understand that.
Sam Hauser, like me, doesn't know what's going on with White Lotus. Like, what's the big deal with White Lotus? Sam Hauser's on my wavelength there.
Have you watched all of White Lotus?
I've watched, I
all
have.
3 seasons?
I've watched White Lotus, yes.
It's just a
And
show about.
I don't know why I watch it. I don't love it. It's fine. It happens. Stuff happens. Some character development. Nothing really goes on except somebody gets murdered.
Yeah, I did not expect us to be doing the J. King TV hour. Have you seen The Last of Us? It's a pretty good show. It's about zombies in it.
I stopped like 4 episodes in, and then I heard spoiler alert that some dude died. So
yeah, well, it's based on a video game that came out in 2020, so people should be able to figure that out. But let's get back to the Boston Celtics. They're now playing the New York Knicks, a team they beat 4 times this year. 3 of those games were not very close. The first game of the season, obviously, the Celtics tied the record or 1-3 short of 3-point records. I think you can throw out that game a little bit. The game that sticks in my mind is the kind of last real game of the regular season. Jason Tatum, who just was phenomenal, absolutely put the Knicks away. And it just feels like, B-Rob, it's going to be a wildly different series because the thing that the Magic did so well was switch everything and guard their yard. And they had these giant bodies where they could guard one-on-one. Karl Towns cannot guard Jason Tatum one-on-one. Jalen Brunson cannot guard Jason Tatum one-on-one. They cannot switch through everything. And so they're going to have to put 2 on the ball at some point. And I feel like that's when the Celtics thrive. And I feel like that's what we saw in the regular season matchup between these 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, we say Jason Tatum, they can't guard Tatum one-on-one. They can't guard a lot of guys on the roster one-on-one. This isn't just a Jason Tatum problem. This is half the Celtics problem for those 2 guys. And Brunson, I guess, yeah, it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird to see how easily the Celtics get the looks they want against this team after Magic. And it's also going to be weird to see an opponent hit some jump shots. Which we'll also see in the series.
That's going to be freaky deaky. I'm not really ready for an opponent ability to run offense and like score the ball. Although Franz, I'm just so thankful I don't have to see Franz score a righty layup over Kristaps again. Like the amount of pain that caused me throughout the Magic series, it was automatic the entire time.
Franz can finish. That's a 2-point daddy. I'll tell you that much.
It's just the same thing. It's a righty scooping hook shot every single time. He goes right, and it's like it doesn't make sense why it goes in. But Jay, what do you think about the Knicks' chance of slowing down? Like this is feel like the problem been for the Knicks the entire year. Their defense just isn't where it was, I think, last season. And I think a lot of that is just Karl Towns is not a rim protector or not a guy you really want out in space. He's just not a defensive leader.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. And I think from the regular season, they're going to have to find something else that works against the Celtics because nothing they tried in the regular season worked. The Celtics were able to get whatever 3 they want. Jason Tatum was able to have his way with them. Karl Towns was just a target possession after possession. And so they're going to need to try something, find something new to disrupt the Celtics a little bit. The thing that's interesting now is that Mitchell Robinson is back. And I believe he only was healthy for one of the Celtics games. In that game, he never played with Towns, I don't think. He's very rarely played with Towns, I believe, since he's come back. And so that could be an adjustment, like play Mitchell Robinson next to Karl Towns and try to go big and see what happens. That presents different issues for them. And then you don't have Karl Towns at center and popping and doing some of the things that he does. But Mitchell Robinson changes their defense. And when he was on the court during that last game against the Celtics, their defense looked totally different. And so I'm interested to see how that change, his availability impacts the matchup and what the Knicks can do, maybe playing those 2 guys together more often than they have this season, or whether they just need to try to find something else to try to slow down the Celtics because the Magic were designed almost specifically, not like they actually did it, but if you built a team to disrupt the Celtics, it would look sort of like the Magic, play sort of like the Magic, and the Knicks just that's not their style, and so they're going to need to switch it up and try to find something new.
It's interesting if they play like double bigs, because I feel like then that just gives Kristaps, you just play him on Mitchell Robinson, and he's like in that kind of help position. And it takes away from their kind of four out one guy, like, or even the 5-out game of like Karl Towns and the Towns Brunson pick and roll, just because there's so much less spacing there. So I feel like there is just this like kind of weak link no matter what the Knicks try to do. B-Rob, who do you think gets like the initial matchup? Because I know they're going to try and force a bunch of switches, but Mikal Bridges, I feel like he got embarrassed by Tatum, at least in that last game of the season. They had to switch OG onto him, and I thought OG did a better job just being physical, but Tatum still kind of had his way with him. But it feels like the OG is I feel like they'll probably start with Bridges and then eventually have to shift to OG again. But who do you think the go-to matchup is for trying to slow down Tatum? Who you guys talked about it. Sean and I talked about it after Game 5. It's just on a pretty fucking epic run of playoff basketball with 35-point performances, getting to the line 10 times, and just not missing any free throws. Oh, and getting 10 rebounds a game. And so who's going to slow down Jason Tatum when I feel like he's playing at his peak right now?
Do they already have no adjustments left? Have they reached the stage of that?
Here's the question. Series? Did the Magic make adjustments? What were the adjustments the Magic made from Game 1 through Game 5?
Foul harder. That was their adjustment, I think.
That's just cranked up a knob of the foul knob, but like
they went away from Cole-Anthony. They went away from Caleb Houston to some extent. They tried a lot of different things. It's just it didn't work. Defensively, it worked though. Defensively, they were able to disrupt everything the Celtics did. That was a blueprint for other teams to try to beat the Celtics, but I don't think the Knicks are built in a way that they can follow that blueprint.
But I do.
They have no adjustments left.
Physical,
in the words of Sam Packard.
They're going to be physical. Like that's like the way they tried to handle the Celtics. Like, and that's going to be like, I imagine it's going to be a lot of OG and a lot of Mikal trying to be physical with Tatum and Brown on the perimeter. I just don't think they have they're just going to have to commit to the ball at some point, and that's where the Celtics, having that level of shooting, you're going to get open threes no matter what against the Knicks. And I just, I think it's advantage Celtics. I just there are no adjustments left, Jay. I didn't want to admit it, but you took the words right out of my mouth.
So Jalen Brunson's awesome though. And he's going to be very tough to stop. I think he's going to be very annoying to stop. If Drew Holiday is not healthy at the start of the series, that could put do you start Derek White on him? Do you go Jaylen Brown on him? Do you want to do that to Jaylen Brown's knee? Do you want to put that much mileage on him guarding Jalen Brunson on top of what he has to do offensively? Brunson, he's just so crafty, and he always has the ball, and he plays a ton of minutes, and he's moving around constantly. He's a really tough cover, and you have to be constantly mentally into it, because the second you're not, he uses your lack of positioning to get a shot or to draw a foul, and he draws a ton of fouls, and they're the most frustrating fouls ever. So I think the Knicks offensively can challenge the Celtics in some ways. Part of it too will be, can they put Jason Tatum on Karl Towns and take away the threes and switch their smaller guards onto Towns, and how much can he punish them? He punished the shit out of them for that late in the regular season. He had one of the best halves I've ever seen him play against the Celtics in that last matchup of the regular season, or one of the last matchups of the regular season.
Yeah, he was 14 for 21 and scored 34 points in that game. And it was a lot of post-ups on Jason Tatum, who just wasn't ready to have that physical battle with Towns in the post.
Yeah, and so that I think is another factor here in this series, significant factor. If they can put Tatum on Towns and he doesn't crush them in the post, and they're able to take away the Towns threes, then that totally changes things for the Knicks offense, and limits them significantly. And then they have, some weak links with Josh Hart's shooting and a lack of real creation around Jalen Brunson. But if Towns is able to beat those smaller matchups, then it will change things.
Do you guys see this? How much double big are we going to see from the Celtics defensively in this series? I'm curious about. With obviously, we know you mentioned the Mitchell Robinson aspect, wondering if they'll go in that direction. That makes the choice easy if they do at all in this series. But defensively against, this team, they obviously spread you out a lot more. There's, Brunson getting Cornett or Porzingis on him is not what the Celtics want, and the Knicks would certainly try for that. But they did a ton of it against the Magic. I think it kind of was like a mixed bag, but Joe liked to lean on it a lot in that series, I think, in tougher moments as things went on. So I'm curious. I mean, Packard, what to start? Like, is that something you want to see more, where you just want to just spread him out in this series, and then obviously you can shoot him off the floor even easier?
I'm certainly open to it because I feel like you can play Kristaps on Josh Hart. I feel like they're just going to beg Josh Hart to shoot threes in this series. The Celtics always feel like they have like a couple guys they're just going to live with. And so I can imagine a Kristaps on Josh Hart, Horford on Cat type defense. And you're just trying to, because I do feel like they're their best defensively when they have the double bigs. I also think I don't know, you guys probably know better than you. I have no idea what Drew Holiday's hamstring's feeling like. And so if he's not out there, I think they lean a lot heavier on the double big. But if they can go to that smaller lineup with Drew, Derek White, the Jays, and I think Al Horford's the better option right now in terms of closing lineup, I think they kind of lean on that more. But I do think a lot depends on how much Drew Holiday is ready to play. And I'm sure glad they finished that game off in 5, so they got all this time off before the series starts on Monday.
Yeah, but he'll have how many days off, Jay? Like almost 2 weeks here by the time we get to Monday for Drew?
Yeah, it's going to be significant time for Drew. He missed the final 3 games of that series. Then you get the week off in between series. So, yeah, about 2 weeks for Drew, which could be, I mean, huge for him. And obviously they didn't rush him back. Obviously, I think they were pretty cautious with this. He was questionable in Game 3 and then didn't play the rest of the series. So either he had a setback that they didn't reveal, or they were very, very cautious with him.
They were like, we're playing the Magic, so we'll see him in the next round.
Yeah, one thing that the Celtics will really have to be aware of is just Josh Hart's rebounding. Like, they'll have to be very aware of that. And I think there'll be times in the series probably when they'll guard him with like Luke Cornett. They'll probably guard him and just really sag off him, force him to shoot. But when you're doing that, you can lose him, and you can lose him on backcuts. You can lose him on the offensive rebounds. He's just such a pain in the ass, just chasing down every offensive rebound, especially come playoff time. It seems like he's always hunting for offensive rebounds, but it seems like once the playoffs come, he just takes it to another level. His ability to compete on every single play after every single rebound is just very rare. And so they got to try to keep him off the glass, because you don't want the Knicks getting second possessions. You don't want them being able to draw fouls like Hart can and Brunson can, especially when your defense isn't set. So the Knicks, it'll be interesting to see how much their lack of willingness to play depth in this series will matter too, because I think the Celtics' depth will be a strength in this series. Their guys, like as many minutes as Joe Mazzulla likes to play his guys, Tibbs will play his main guys more in this series. And I think it's possible that the Celtics wear them down late in games, but we'll see.
It's going to be an absolutely thrilling series in both environments. It's like two of my favorite playoff basketball environments. And if you want to be there, if you want to go to any other event, I highly suggest downloading the Game Time app. The Game Time is the best way to get in-demand tickets to playoff matchups. And you can get tickets to not just sports, but theater, concerts, comedy shows, You get last minute deals. That's the best. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute tickets. Again, for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. They have zone deals, all in pricing. So you know the total price right up front. No surprise fees at checkout. Panoramic view from your seat. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And you have Game Time ticket coverage. So your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So if you want to get tickets to a game in New York or Boston, or you want to go to see the Sox, or you want to just go to an event, get out on the town, use the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I feel like the thing the Celtics have the biggest advantage in, and this, if you talked to me 2 years ago, I don't think I would have believed you, but just like clutch at execution. Because we saw in this Knicks Pistons series that the Pistons had these games won and just kind of pissed the game away. And I feel like the Celtics, and there was not a lot of clutch situations, but like I'm thinking 4 minutes left.
So would you say if the Pistons were pissing games away, that the Knicks were seizing games at the end?
No. Unforced errors. I mean, they capitalized, but I don't think it was like the Knicks really ramped up the pressure there. I feel like there's like
I just, for a lawyer, I thought that was a pretty poor argument. You saying that end of game execution will be the Celtics' big strength, and then going into how the Knicks won it at the end of games several times in the first round. I just wanted to help you out as a lawyer, not necessarily for this podcast. For this podcast, it's cool, but moving forward, you know, in the court of law, could be something that you want to work on.
Okay, yeah, sure. But I'm saying the Knicks won't be able to take advantage of a team that makes so many mistakes down the stretch because the Celtics will not give them those opportunities because the Celtics have experience in the playoffs and experience winning down the clutch. And that's something that the Knicks, who choked away many of these games and then were able to take advantage of a less experienced team, that's not something they're going to be able to do. And I think you mentioned something with Tibbs playing so many guys, like Brunson and Hart getting hurt every game. I don't know how much you can connect it to just like how much they play in the regular season, but they did feel just kind of like gassed towards the end of these games. And they had the privilege of playing a young team like the Detroit Pistons who had no idea what they're doing. The Celtics, fortunately, know exactly what they're doing and have been in these situations before. And I feel like the days are gone where they're like making these mistakes down the stretch. I feel like that's one of the Celtics' biggest strengths heading into this series is just playoff experience and knowing exactly what it takes to win. And I feel like the Celtics have this switch where they can just kind of like turn it on and like, all right, we're going to do exactly the right thing to do because we've been here before and we've practiced for all these, like Bill Belichick term, like situational football. B-Rob, settle the argument. You be the judge if me and Jay were lawyers. Who's right and who's wrong?
I haven't even stated an argument. I've just said that you're a moron.
No, I'm Team Jay here. Like, you set it up poorly, Packard, but I see what you're trying to say. With that said,
I was rudely interrupted before I could finish my point. Order in the court.
But your point stands. And honestly, I don't know how much crunch time there's going to be in the series period, if we're going to be fair. If we look at where it's been this season, I'm sure there'll be a game or two. But the Celtics, even going back to last season and this last series, outside of Game 4, and obviously they lost Game 3. That was a gap there. But they have traditionally been taking care of business here when they need to, you know, before it even gets that close. And defensively, I think this next team is going to get worn down a ton. Like that, there's no depth. Is the Magic bench better than the Knicks bench? Like from a talent standpoint, it's close. It's close. Like they might even have more of an impact.
McBride's all right.
Yeah, McBride's decent. Campaign in this series should not be a factor.
Moments though. Campaign's gonna hit like 4 very annoying threes in MSG, and I'm gonna make some dumb Campaign jokes on Twitter. Like everyone can look forward to that right now. Lock it in.
Mitchell Robinson's a factor off the bench though.
Did he do anything in this
last
series?
I was not impressed with him. I mean, if he gets healthier, maybe like if he gets more of a groove, perhaps. But
he averaged 4 offensive rebounds per game in the series, I believe.
Yeah.
Over 17 minutes per game. He's just a house on the glass.
Yeah. Luke Cornett and Porzingis and Al will have his hands full keeping him on the glass. But that's, again, another guy that the Celtics should be able to feast on in isolation switches too. So that will be an interesting push-pull there. But yeah, the Celtics bench, I guess the message here is, in my mind, is like they should kick the crap out of the Knicks bench in this series. From like, if we saw them kind of turn the corner in in Game 5 offensively, Hauser's got.
Did we though? Did we see actually anything happen in Game 5? Because that Paolo fouled out, and then there's just like Gogo was in the game, and
the Magic just gave up, man. They were just like, there were like 4 minutes after the Paolo fifth foul.
It was close.
Where they were like engaged, they were locked in. They were like, "We can still do this, guys." And then the Celtics pulled away a little, and they were like, "We can't do this. No, let's." And then they just kind of fell apart. It was kind of wild to see the dam just break and the Celtics go from down 5 in the second half to a 31-point victory.
Do you think that gives confidence to like Peyton Pritchard and Hauser? Because I feel like they had, especially Pritchard, I felt like had a pretty disappointing series, but maybe it's just not the matchup for him because like he is like smaller, but I expected him to get to like beat his guy off the dribble and get into the paint more and distribute more and be more aggressive. And I just feel like we didn't see it necessarily an aggressive Peyton Pritchard. So I don't know what to necessarily expect from him, considering how much he made a leap this year and became such a larger part of the Celtics offense. I feel like I expect more from him in these playoffs because I feel like they still need his scoring punch. That to be said, I thought Peyton Pritchard's defense was like phenomenal in that Magic series, and he brought like the point of attack, just like defensive intensity, I thought was great, but he still had multiple games where I don't think he scored any points.
And those guys are going to get back to their comfort zone now in the series. Like the open looks are going to be there. Hauser took 4 shots in the first like 3 games of that first round series because the open looks are not there. With this Knicks defense, you know they're going to be there. Pritchard's going to be able to get to his spots too. And not that they're going to need to lean on those guys for big points in this series, but I think they're going to find their comfort level, which they never really were able to get to your point offensively against the Magic at all with their scheme.
Yeah, the Magic were able to do an incredible job of just not leaving the shooters, not leaving the supporting cast. What they were able to do to limit Boston's supporting cast was next level and limit the 3-point attempts. I don't think the Knicks will be able to do that because I do think the Celtics, like, there wasn't really an easy person to pick on in the Magic defense. There wasn't. I think with the Knicks,
Corey Joseph, but no, he can't even do that right.
With the Knicks, I think it'll be like, if you really want a 3 or a great look, like just go find Karl Towns. Just go find him. And I don't know if he'll be able to hold up against that attack. I also don't think, like we talked about the Knicks bench, I don't think the Knicks bench will play very often in this series at all. I think Tibbs is going to have to, because obviously he'll know the urgency of every minute in this series. He'll know how quickly a run can go the other way, and he won't trust very many guys on that bench. Mitchell Robinson will play, I'm sure.
McBride will play.
McBride will play some minutes, but like I wouldn't be surprised if Campaign gets limited at some point. I wouldn't be surprised even if McBride gets limited at some point. They're just like 48, Josh, 48, Jalen, 48, OG. Like, go ahead, guys. We need all of you all the time in this series.
What can Towns realistically play though, and hold up defensively? It's one thing to be like, all right, you have to handle this. Another thing, okay, you're also playing 40 minutes, Karl. Like he'll be running on fumes by the middle of the third quarter.
Could be a tough series.
He did have a great first half against the Celtics in that last game, and then it was not really anywhere to be found. I was just looking at the stats of made threes in the 4 games the Celtics played. 29 in game 1, and then 19, 17, and 19. And with the threes are going to be there. And it's
which is funny because the Knicks do a great job of preventing 3-point attempts against most teams, but they just couldn't do it against the Celtics. And maybe they'll lean more into it. Obviously, the Magic were like a unique case where they were designed to do that. But maybe the Knicks will be able to lean more into it and focus on the supporting cast and turn Tatum and Brown into scorers like the Magic were able to do. It didn't work for the Magic, but it did to some extent. Like they were able to dismantle Boston's normal plans. But I struggle to see how the Knicks will stay in like their defensive shell and not get penetrated when Towns is out there. I just think it's going to be a weak spot for them that the Celtics will be able to pick on, and they'll be relentless doing it.
It's there's no protection against. The only way the Knicks win this series, I feel like, is just they have to shoot the shit out of the ball.
Well, Kale and OG need to hit like 4 threes a game.
Right.
They also probably have to shoot more threes.
That too.
They did not shoot very many threes during the regular season at all. They were one of the lowest volume 3-point shooting teams in the league. So they may need to lean into variance, and Tom Thibodeau isn't big at like changing things like that. But we'll see.
Not a big adjustments guy from old Tibbs over there.
Is there anything else in your guys' mind? Like, where could you talked about like, Brunson's going to be a handful, like those guys going. Where else can the Knicks give the Celtics any sort of like meaningful problems in this series? Like, where is the coaching staff going to be focused on right now going into these next few days of what needs to be tightened up, if anything, against a team like this?
I think if Towns is able to punish switches, that could hurt the Celtics. I'm gonna sound like Joe, who just stretches like the margins. But like, if you don't keep Josh Hart off the glass, if you don't keep Mitchell Robinson off the glass, that becomes a big deal. If you don't keep Jalen Brunson off the free throw line, that becomes a big deal. Like, that's how you lose games against the Knicks. You get sloppy with some of that stuff. You send Jalen Brunson to the line 11 times. You allow them to get second possessions all game, and all of a sudden, the advantages that you have, you've squandered them because you've given the Knicks free points. And so it's very simple. It's not like groundbreaking stuff. Like, box out, guys, rebound. And don't foul the little shifty guy who draws fouls on everybody. But it can be tough to execute when Hart is flying around and when Brunson is giving you shoulder fake, leaning into you. He's a master at drawing free throws. As much as it bugs a lot of people, like, he's just really fucking good at it. And you just got to stay as solid as it gets against him. And Drew had, I think Brunson had 13 free throw attempts the second game against the Celtics, maybe the first game. And the next game, Drew did an incredible job against Brunson, keeping him off the line. I think he had just 2 free throw attempts, which is one of his lowest of the entire season. So they've shown that they can do a good job against him. And Brunson's actually said, I believe on his own podcast, that Drew is like one of the toughest defenders that he faces. And so, Drew's availability will be pretty big in this one, I think, because that's the obvious matchup for Brunson. And if he's got to not just be available, but available and able to chase a guy who's really fucking tough to chase.
Yeah, I wonder if they keep him off him to start the series. So, like, you don't want to. It's one thing to be back on the floor. It's one thing to be chasing Brunson around for 35 minutes. Like, if they give that assignment to Derek out of the gate, I guess we'll find out just how good he feels about that hamstring pretty early on next week here.
Brunson I think he had 13 free throws in one of the games. The closest game, one of the games in Boston, and then 3, 2, and then 0 free throws in I think that final game. So wow. You're absolutely right. My biggest concern heading into the series is the Latvian fella. Like, is he gonna show up and do stuff that's good? I know he's gonna, like, he played very well and knocked down, what was it, 8 threes in that final game in MSG.
He's had great games in MSG. It's like, I remember his first game at MSG too. He was, went for like 30 or something like that 2 years ago.
And I guess it's like less. He's not going to be punishing small guys on a switch, but it's still like something that's that is why you bring him in. And obviously the pick and pop is part of his game, but I just haven't been thrilled with the Kristaps Porzingis I've gotten. And I know Franz making all those shots against him was kind of wacky snacks, but he still fouled way more than I think
Did
he
you say
should have.
wacky snacks?
Yes. How else would you describe Franz making?
My son is
those-
1 year old. 1 year old. He can't even speak yet. And if he ever said wacky snacks, I'd be like, son, don't ever say that again.
Jay, we've been podcasting together for 6 years now. I've been saying dumb shit for 6 years. And at what point are you just going to accept that? That's what I do.
At what point are you going to accept that I come back at you for that dumb shit?
And now you've described the dynamic of this show. But what about Kristaps? Am I overly concerned right now? Like, they won the whole
No.
finals like last year where they didn't really need him. I genuinely think he's not in their final five. Like, I think he is a liability on defense I think he's the seventh best defender on the team right now. Even though he provides a lot of rim protection, even though he has a lot of things, I feel like if he's on the court, he's the guy you're targeting. And I feel like that doesn't make me feel
Counterpoint. Josh Hart could be a great matchup for Kristaps Porzingis, and having him at the rim to help against Jalen Brunson instead of being dragged into the action against Franz Wagner could be awesome for the Celtics.
Yeah, but don't they just run Josh Hart set the screen then?
But you don't have to even worry about him elsewhere, because if he sets the screen, if he pops, it doesn't matter. So
I agree. I think Josh Hart's going to get average like 8 threes a game, not mades, but like at least attempts, because they're just going to be begging him to shoot.
He's going to have at least one game where he hits like 5 or 6, and Stu Greeny is just furious online.
It's always one guy. It's always one guy against the Celtics. But I think the matchup does like make Kristaps better. I think he can survive better on defense. I think he can pick and pop. Like, you just run if Towns is guarded, who do you think they put on Kristaps? Because if they put Towns on him, then you just run a Kristaps Tatum pick and roll. They can't really switch, and it just leaves this kind of pop 3-pointer, which I think is like what they had really spammed and got Kristaps that many looks, at least in the Garden. So I'm curious how to think they try to defend him.
I think they have to start with that, because where else are you going to hide him? Like, there's nowhere to hide. Are you going to throw him on Drew Holiday? Which I know
and Drew Holiday will drive right through his chest and get a layup and score 6 points in that game.
But
that's what Drew Holiday does.
Drew Holiday typically only drives through the chest of people like 7 inches taller than he is.
I was talking driving through cats. Right through cat.
That's what I'm saying. That's what he does. That he only goes at the centers. He's like, Evan Mobley, DPOY, let's fucking tangle.
But it is like I guess if Drew for the Knicks right now, Porzingis didn't play well against the Magic. If the confidence in his shot is not there at the start of this series, that is their maybe their only hope is like, we're begging Porzingis to take threes that he's off on, and that might be the best game plan against this Celtics offense going in, particularly if Drew is out or Drew is just not right yet too. But beyond that, this is why when they made this trade back in October, we were like, well, that's fun, Knicks. You got Towns, but you're probably drawing dead against the Celtics, because this matchup has been apparent all year long in these 4 regular season matchups. And if anything, the Celtics are just going to pick at it more than ever and just be ruthless, because that's what they do.
How much do you think Tom Thibodeau is going to sleep between series?
I don't think he slept in 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't think he slept in 3 decades, but even for his standards, I feel like the next few days are just going to be like just bunkered down in his office, just
trying to figure out how to teach Towns defense. Like what is he? I don't even know what is he considering?
Trying to figure out some double team, some tactic that just slows the Celtics down enough to keep them in games and give Jalen Brunson a chance to close it out.
All right, I got 2 more topics before we end the podcast. I guess they're related, and it's kind of annoying. I understand why Celtics fans are upset.
You annoying? Never.
I didn't do anything here. It's your colleague Shams Charania talking about the.
We don't have to talk
Former
about
colleague.
this. We've talked about this a million times.
Well, that's basically it's a topic in the news. People are talking about it, but basically Shams said the Celtics are probably going to make a move this offseason. And that's pretty much, if you've been listening to Still Poddable, what we've been saying. B-Rob has been saying that.
Shit.
B-Rob's been saying that since they traded for Kristaps Porzingis, that like this summer coming up was like the time where if they're going to do anything, it was going to happen. Here's dumb fan brain concern is that last year they locked Drew up before the playoffs and there was like no scuttlebutt, anything else to talk about heading into the playoffs. Do you think the Celtics, it's any potential for any sort of like distraction if it's like the Shams comes out and says like, oh yeah, Kristaps is the one who's getting traded. Kristaps is the one who's probably getting traded, I think. But like, do you think there's any potential for like locker room distraction here?
I don't think so because everyone's got their money. Everyone's been paid, and there is no clear cut. Like, you could go in. This team can go in any different directions based on how this goes. So from that standpoint, I think a lot of those guys probably feel very secure in their footing, regardless of like if they play well enough here, if they show themselves to be indispensable, then they'll stay here. Yeah. So it's like
no Terry Rozier circa 2019.
Right. I mean, Luke's going to start playing for himself, obviously, down the stretch here.
Well,
He's in a contract.
That gets me to my next point, but I want to hear Jay's thoughts on this.
I don't think there will be any turmoil. That is not what this group has been about at all since Brad Stevens assembled it a year and a half ago, whenever. And like for it to happen now, it's just not going to happen. No, they've known the deal. Like everyone can look at the salary cap situation and know something might be coming. They all have their money. They're all going to get paid. They might end up somewhere else. Some of them might end up somewhere else. And I think that's how it is. It's life in the NBA, man. Like that's just how it is. I think they're all trying to savor a chance to do something special again, and that's why Brad brought everybody back, is because he trusted that this group would be able to, like, would not need new blood to tackle this challenge again.
Well, they got Torrey Craig instead of O'Shea Brissett, and I feel like that probably changes the dynamic a little bit. They explain to him all the inside jokes and stuff. I got a dumb. Go ahead.
To wrap this up, to your point, Packard, on this report is a slap in the face to Jay, myself, this podcast, anyone else who's been.
I don't think it was a report. I think he was asked a question on TV and just answered it, and then everyone freaked out about it because it's Shams. I don't think he was reporting.
When
news.
he speaks, it feels like it matters more because like that means he's talking to someone on the inside.
Yeah, well, we do too, but
yeah, but no one cares.
That's fair. Though, Jay,
obviously,
right.
he's
great. You don't think
he didn't come out with a tweet like Celtics considering new moves this summer. It's like he just was answering a question on TV.
Yeah, but who said he should go on television? You know, who allowed that to happen?
He does work for a television place.
Should we be concerned, or is it weird that Bill Chisholm hasn't actually bought the Celtics yet?
No, there was a report today on Front Office Sports saying that he has the money now.
Yeah, that's weird. Like he didn't before.
I think it's
a very complicated thing to get the money for something like that. There was never a doubt that I was told that it was going to happen. I don't think the Celtics ever would have announced the deal. Yeah. I don't think they would have agreed to the deal. It would have been a terrible look for the league if something like that happened and it fell through. That was never going to happen, no matter what the questions were.
Right. They did months of work on this, and so I guess the only interesting part of it was like there was some with like the 6th Street, like there was some private equity in there that had some high percentages, so that was a little bit unusual. But to Jay's point, like they had to look at the numbers for months in this, and so unless they had real good confidence, obviously anything can fall apart for like if the market kept tanking for the next couple months or whatever, like that. Who knows if that would have been some type
That'd be
of
wild.
Yeah,
tariffs just caught Bill Chisholm.
I mean, I don't know. It's like it's probably a lot of money was lost, but clearly that is not the case. And I think Wick had an interview, I think, with BZ last week where he kind of said the same thing in the report today, being like, "Yeah, we are, everything's good to go. We're oversubscribed, if you will, of additional investors now." So obviously that's a situation. Like they're not going to vote on it from what I've heard until after the season ends of like approving it. They don't want it to be a distraction during the playoffs. But with that said, connecting these two stories here, all that shit needs to be in place for July 1 because big decisions are going to need to be made right out of the gate. And a big part of that is like, all right, what's the line? What's our payroll? And then we can figure things out from there. That's what Brad Stevens and his staff are going to need to know.
All right, I got one final dumb thing to say. I don't think it's dumb, but you guys, obviously Jay will tell me it's dumb. B-Rob, I need you to be the beacon of truth and honesty here. So I've been listening to a lot of NBA podcasts. I listened to like the Lakers obituary about like what the Lakers do in the offseason.
Sweet.
Would Luke Cornett not fix the Lakers? Like, is he not the exact big who like would play with Luka?
Luke Cornett would help just about any team. Yeah. And he would work really well with any good players.
But he's a rim running big who can really good passing on the short roll, solid defensively, can mentor Luka and teach him the way of sacrificing for winning. I feel like they're going to they should throw some money at him in the offseason. Like, this is how the team gets broken up, is that Luke Cornett is signing multi-year deals somewhere else.
What are you trying to do here, Packard? This is blasphemy right now from you.
I'm not done. I don't want it, but I was just like, how do the Lakers, like, who is this magical man who could fix this team?
No, you're dead on. And if this happens, then you're to blame. If Luke goes to La La Land. And
if Rob Pelinka is listening to Still Poddable, I know a lot of Celtics people listen to Still Poddable, but I don't think Rob Pelinka is necessarily tuning in.
Maybe Nico. But yeah, no, it is. He is like the center market. Like if you're gonna look at Clint Capella or like Luke Cornett, who helps the Lakers more? It's probably Luke Cornett. Probably Luke Cornett by a fair amount for the reasons you mentioned, because he is the guy who's going to sacrifice for everyone else. He's never going to be trying to steal shots outside of easy ones around the basket, and it's a great screener, good rim protector. So
catch lobs. Like all Luka wants to do is throw lobs and pick and roll. Like it feels like a very logical choice. I don't know what Luke Cornett's contract. Like he deserves way more money than he's going to be able to get from the Celtics next year. And so,
unless they trade some guys and can pay him, I bet he's going to take the thing. We'll get into this plenty, Packard, in the months to come. If Cornett stays, I bet it's on a long-term deal. I think they're going to be like, he's going to
break the CBA. They're going to give him an old 8-year deal.
8 year, exactly. Larry Bird writes time too. No, but they have the ability to give him 3-4 years. And not that he couldn't get that type of deal anywhere else, but he has a family. He's been here for 3 or 4 years. I think he clearly loves it here. And so they're going to they'll certainly have to move things around to afford to keep him. He's not going to be signing for scraps. But yeah, it will be fascinating to see if a Lakers or another team like that throw real mid-level exception money at him, because in all likelihood, that's probably going to be too much for the Celtics to match.
Well, we hope that day doesn't come. We're getting too ahead of ourselves. We got another podcast coming Sunday evening where we'll talk more about Celtics Knicks. We'll get predictions then. I do like that I made a good point about Luke, and then Jay King's computer mysteriously shuts down. As soon as I start displaying my knowledge of ball, Jay King's nowhere to be found. I think it's mighty suspect. I will say that, but crazier things have happened. For everyone listening or watching on the CLNS YouTube page or listening to the free show, please go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. You definitely want to be a part of it in the playoff run. Chat is a fantastic place to be during the game. Got a lot of crazy memes, jokes flying left and right. It's very fun way to watch a Celtics game. Kind of feels like a weird Celtics Twitter was back in the heydays. That brings me back to Isaiah Thomas should have been featured way more in the last episode of Celtic City, but that's a rant for another time. We really appreciate everyone tuning in. This episode was brought to you by the Game Time app. Go to Game Time, use promo code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll be back Monday morning with more Celtics Knicks analysis. We'll have predictions. and everything you need to know to break down this series after we have a few days to think about it. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode of Still Poddable.
Still Poddable, the Boston Celtics, still Poddable.